everyone, and thank you for joining us for tonight's episode of Stronger. I'm here tonight with chaplains Mark Wenzel and Phil Merton. We are going to be talking about the topic of boundaries and specifically bringing your boundaries with you. Um, if you're joining us tonight, go ahead and drop in the comments section. We are collecting boy baby names. So we'll be interested in hearing what names you have to suggest for us. Hey,
Oh,
Where'd I go? Oh, there I am.
there you
Okay.
are.
Cheers.
cheers. Good evening, everybody.
Yeah.
So, what's this about baby names? Before we get
Baby
into this,
My first grandchild is due in the next 3 weeks.
oh,
So
congratulations!
let's see, where's the crib
Wow! Look at that!
and the stroller
Nice.
in the freshly painted room
Ah, that's so cool.
because they live with us. So
Oh man. When we were expecting, we started playing with names, and we made the mistake of telling family what we were talking about, and they said, "No, don't name that or that." And it's like, I like that name, but now we couldn't do it. And it's like, so you keep it a secret. You spring it on your family. That's my advice.
Yeah, and that's how you might end up with names like Budweiser for your child.
Budweiser. For real? Have you heard of it?
No, but I have. When I was taking English courses in undergrad, I did hear about a child who was named Diarrhea because when the mother was in the hospital, she didn't speak very good English, and so yeah, Diarrhea ended up being that name.
I met a guy named not Budweiser but Courvoisier.
Courvoisier.
Yeah.
What kind of alcohol is that?
It's brandy, I think, isn't it?
Okay.
I think it is.
I think we might be getting slightly off topic though.
All right.
So
met
Phil,
another guy named Sputnik.
okay. Mark, I take it these names are completely out of the realm of possibility for your
so far,
grandchild.
they don't
Oh,
sound like they're going to fit in there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So tonight we're going to be talking about the topic of boundaries. And before we get into that, Phil, why don't you talk to us about a little bit more about your experience getting into prison ministries as we start this conversation?
Sure. I started in corrections ministry. Oh, it was a year and a half or so after I joined in with institutional ministries, and I did not know what to expect. I went into the Milwaukee County Jail. It was the first stop, and what are they gonna? Do they throw things at me? What happens when I go into a cell block? Which is how they did it then. This was real old time jail before they redid the jail. It was a row of cell blocks. You clung to the bars and you spoke through the bars, actual jail bars. It was just like the Andy Griffith show. You're talking to what's his name, Otis. Yeah, Otis in there. I'm sorry, Andy. I'm sorry. That's all right, Otis. That's all right. It was classic talk through the bars stuff. And I'm pleased to report that nobody ever threw things at me. What I found was just the opposite. I'd talk to somebody, and somebody else down the line would say, "Hey, when you're done talking to him, could you come and talk to me?" Happened over and over again. They were just happy to see me, happy to talk. They had, "You're a God guy? Well, that's great because I got God stuff I need to find out about." That started things. That was my first real taste of corrections ministry. But I didn't get into aftercare stuff much at that point. It took. It was basically I'm talking to them while they're on the other side of them bars, and not much at first of about once they get out. Um, I did. My start with that was not so much about corrections. It was more. I was doing a whole lot of work with people who were inpatient with drug and alcohol addiction, getting treatment for that in the county facility. Uh, and there had great visits, great Bible studies, etc., with people during their 3 or 4 week stay, and thought, man, can't we do something for people once they get out of there, once they're discharged? And that's where we started an aftercare ministry. And as people would come to this weekly thing we held open for people, that's where I did find setting boundaries was important. Um, I found myself not so much telling them too much, not so much having people too much in my business. My boundary issue is I was so invested in them, had such and put my own expectations on the people that were getting involved in this ministry. And when they didn't live up to my expectations, I would dwell on that, and I would yak and yak about that. I found myself coming home from these sessions, and all I'd talk about would wasn't the people who were making great progress. It was not the people who were just really had something really great going with their recovery. It was the people who just weren't getting it. The people who were just being a pain in the neck. The people that were relapsing. The people who were talking still talking a bunch of war stories and such. Those are the people I kept thinking about and yakking about. So that's the boundary issue for me. I was imposing my expectations and not just being there for them, doing what I could for them, and then between you and God, you can work on your recovery, and it's not my recovery, it's yours. I wasn't doing that, and so I was getting really resentful of people. It's still a tendency I have, but that's where my boundary issue comes up.
Mm-hmm.
It can one more thing about a more mundane way. I remember then sometime after that I was working with a group of people who had just started their own jail ministry. Yeah, and as in the initial sessions they'd have, the volunteers going into the jail, I met with them, and one woman, she'd just been going in for a few weeks, connected with one of the inmates, had already given this inmate her phone number and her home address. Come on, that's there's where you got to set some boundaries down. I mean, granted, it happens sometimes. You do make a connection. That does happen. Sometimes the rule is do not let people into your business, etc. And there's times when I think this is a case where I got to make an exception. But boy, oh boy, you've been 2 weeks on the job, ran into one person already, you're making that exception. Rethink that. That could backfire.
It's interesting that you say that, and also this topic of boundaries is one that when people hear it could possibly be a little bit offsetting or off-putting, because it seems like it seems like it might be a hindrance to actually to either doing ministry or to walking with people during this time.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to thinking about this topic of setting boundaries, what are some of the thoughts and principles that that you use to help guide yourself? And I'm gonna pass this question to you first, Mark. So what are your thoughts on that?
What are some of the principles that I follow? Yeah, I don't know if I've ever really set down too many hard and fast rules.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard the rules, and just like what Phil just said, it's like, you gave your name, you did this. And I definitely, when I started into jail ministry, it was like I come in and I leave. You stay here, and those two worlds don't meet. That was definitely my thought process when it came to jail ministry. Is I will come in and see you, and then we're done.
That sounds like an interesting way of looking at things,
Yeah.
especially considering the fact that people who are in prison eventually will return to
Mhm.
the world outside of prison.
Mhm.
So,
That wasn't part of my thought process at that time. I didn't understand that thought process. It was I'm coming in to do this ministry here, and then I leave. And there were others that they were actually kind of started the same time I did, and they were very interested in doing something on the outside,
Mhm.
and they would start doing stuff, and it kind of freaked me out. It's like, you're doing what?
Mhm.
You're doing what?
Right.
I was not ready for that. So I guess the first principle is comfort. What's your comfort zone?
Okay.
If it's not in your comfort zone, don't do it.
Hmm.
Somebody else can do it. That's their comfort zone. Let them do it. You don't have to do that.
Yeah. That's so good. Yeah, you're not failing at ministry if you're not doing something you're comfortable with. It's just you're not called to that, maybe.
Right. And I noticed it. It's people with different backgrounds. They have different personalities, different ways of looking at it, and their level of risk taking maybe is at a different level than mine. And I don't think it meant that we cared for the people any less, but it was just really being comfortable.
Okay.
And I've, there's a growth in that over the years for me, and yet I've subconsciously or consciously kind of kept things to a minimum, that it's like a couple of people, no more, on the outside. If I really do want to, invest some time with them and care for them, and the very same thing too with what Phil said about some of the resentments that can build up, and some of that came from history in other situations in the parish ministry of helping someone, and then it doesn't pan out good, or you find out they did this with your help, or and you kind of like, well, why should I do that anymore? And so that's part of one's personal makeup, and that might coming into it, and the experiences. And I guess I would have to say that probably one of the first guys that I've worked with outside has just been really good at bringing me along. Like he would realize that he was doing something that was just kind of freaking me out, maybe, yeah. And if I asked, he didn't mind explaining what he was doing. And some other times he was, almost proactively explaining, this is what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And
Nice.
would maybe in some cases even spoon feed me some information about his life, because I just don't want to overwhelm you. And it was. I mean, some of the things he eventually told me were overwhelming. If he had told me day one, I know I've gone way beyond your question, Ruth, I believe, but yeah. But comfort zone, taking your time, I think is really important, and knowing you're not the only one out there.
Yeah.
You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be Superman.
That is something. I worked for quite a while with a local group called Prison Aftercare Network, and that was one of the principles they just kept hammering home over and over again, that no one person and no one congregation, no one agency can do it all. The picture they gave repeatedly was a person coming out of corrections needs a landing spot. That landing spot is not a tightrope. You can provide one strand, but they need a landing. They need a net to land in. So network with people and find out who's got what strength, who's got what resources. Don't try to do it all. Don't be a one-stop shop. You can't do it.
Yeah.
And I think there's, for a lot of people, I think like your guy, Mark, you said there's so many things that would have just totally blown you away if he'd given them to you all at once. Uh, there is so many people there's such a gigantic yawning Grand Canyon of need that they bring along with them. There's so much stuff that's uh, so many wounds, so many deficits. Anyway, to think that, well, I'll take care of it all. Forget it. Um, Ultimately, you say, okay, God's got you. I'm glad to be one of his one of his servants, one of his tools to help deal with your problems. But he has not called me to do it all.
Yeah. And it actually kind of flips that word boundary around
Mm-hmm.
from being, okay, I've got to draw this line that I don't do too much, to what is the gift that God has given me to share? What's my strength that I can
Right.
do? I'm good at this.
Mm-hmm.
Do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your boundary.
Mm-hmm.
Again, don't step out of your comfort zone
Hmm.
with that, and realize, there's other people out there that are really good at going and rescuing this person when they're gotten in trouble, or
Yeah.
finding the resources for them. And I'm good at listening to them.
Okay.
I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate here for a second, because people, if people are listening right now, one of the lines of thinking that could possibly come up is that it seems like, as we're talking about prison ministry and ministering to people who are coming out of prison, returning citizens, that the approach that is being talked about is one that could be considered self-centered, instead of in line with the sacrificial love that God calls us to. So, for people who would have that question, what are some ways that help you to kind of look at that? Phil, I'm going to direct that question to you.
Yeah, it is an excellent question. God, he does call us that self-sacrificial love. Say, what does that person need? Also, to be aware of ourselves and say, well, what do I need? God loves me. God loves him. Unless I have a pretty good indication for that, God is calling me to say, look, you're going to have to incur some loss for the sake of taking care of loving this person. Then I got to be careful about that. You think about how Jesus set up boundaries. Let's see, in the book of Mark, what is it, chapter 2, I think, where he started his ministry and everybody was just mobbing him. And he finally had to sneak off somewhere to spend some time in prayer. His disciples came looking for him and said, hey, everybody wants to see you. And he said, it's time for us to move on. There's other towns, there's other places I got to see. But there's still people here that are asking for, I know. But, he set up those boundaries. A, I got to take some time for myself. Me and God, I got to have some me and God time. And B, I'm not going to, he's Jesus. Never forget, he's human. And he embraces human limitations. I think that's the biggest takeaway here. He knew his human limitations. He respected them and recognized, I'm not going to be the guy to take care of every single one of these problems. Not here and now, not in this form. So if he's going to set boundaries, I guess I can too.
If we're following through, though, even in the example that you gave, it's not that Jesus kind of withdrew from meeting needs. It's that he took some time, and even like, if we continue on, it wasn't even that much time, so that he could then kind of return to that. Could it not be said that Well, one question that could come up from that was that time that he took away something that he needed for himself, or was it needed for his disciples? Which kind of would also get us back to that line of questioning about establishing boundaries. But then also, because of the fact that that break wasn't that long, is it kind of could it actually be said that the sort of boundaries that we're talking about tonight are the same sorts of boundaries that would be kind of promoted through that action? Or is there a difference there that we should acknowledge as we're talking about ministry?
Let's see. So difference between what we're talking about, kind of boundaries we're talking about, and the kind of boundaries Jesus was setting for himself.
Mm-hmm.
I still think, when Jesus would set some time aside to go off and pray, that wasn't for his disciples, that was for him. He would have longer times too, when he tried at least to get away, head across the lake, and everybody chased after him, and he ended up doing the feeding of the 5,000. He tried to take breaks, even though people were looking for him. Granted, he ended up doing all kinds of miracles in ministry anyway after they came chasing after him. But he tried. He was trying to set those boundaries. Knew I need a break. We all need a break. Go ahead and take a break.
Mm-hmm.
I think too. Think of what Paul talked about. How he. I planted, Apollos watered. He got that thing in. Let's see. Geez, somebody help me out here. Was that Galatians or is that in Corinth where he talked about? Oh, it was in Corinth. Yeah, Corinth. 1 Corinthians. Yeah. Yes, where it's like, I'm glad I didn't go baptizing. The way you people are carrying on that I'm a Paul man. No, I'm an Apollos man. He was saying, I'm glad I didn't go baptizing anybody. Oh, no, there's a couple of people I baptized, but just those couple. That wasn't his job. He had a different calling. So the baptizers baptized.
I think in that area with that original question of kind of self-centered sounding, one of the things is if it's a situation of certain intensity, of certain, I don't want to say like life and death all the time, but a more emergent situation, you're going to be there, you're going to do that, you're going to take care of it. Somebody calls me up at whatever time of night and says, I've got my pills here, I'm going to take them.
Yeah.
Can you just wait till the morning? I'm off right now. No, don't call that boundary, right? You're going to do something right then.
Yeah.
If somebody calls up and says, I really like to talk, and you ascertain it's not that an emergent situation. I just want to have a conversation about things. Okay, we can put that off. We can do that. And so that you set the boundaries of, is this person, what responsibility are they taking for their own lives at that moment? Or are they just every little thing they're turning to you, and you got to say, wait, no, you got to take care of some of this stuff on your own. But I'm here for you, but I'm not running to hold your hand every time something happens. The balance there, and that's a tough one, because it's like, am I making the right decision here? And sometimes the opportunity is there that you can hand it off to someone else. I learned that in my first year as a hospital chaplain, where end of my day came and I was still dealing with a family that was in the ICU, and something was happening, and there was another chaplain that came on that was able to take over, and I was like, I don't want to let go. Because that was very self-centered at that point. It's all about me, because I'm the one that can take care of the situation. Right. They've got a connection with me, and no, they had a connection with a chaplain. I would probably say that another chaplain could handle just as well and take care of them. But that was hard, because sometimes you think, yeah, I do have all the answers for them. I am here to save the day. And
Mhm.
no, you know, underdog, you can go home. Let Spider-Man take over
Okay.
or something.
Yeah.
I think that identification is important right there when you said that it being about you versus otherwise. And I think that's important both when pretty much on all parts of the establishment of boundaries, not
Mhm.
making it so much about us and that, but instead, what is the most loving thing for this person at the time?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is it going to be continuing on in this right now, or is it going to be also working with other people and helping this person to achieve the things that they need to achieve so that they can reach a place of um, resiliency?
Right. If my ministry is fostering dependence on me, then I'm not helping.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're the tool. God is the power, and God's using different tools, just like Paul said, right? Somebody
Mhm.
watered, somebody planted, did this, and to recognize that too. We're just one cog in this big picture of things,
Mhm.
and which yeah, and that's where that self-centered ego comes in. It's like, oh, we really have a connection, and I've had that kind of blow up in my face where I've had a conversation with a person, and it's just like, oh, we're really connecting, we're connecting. And so I go, I'm going to go back tomorrow. We're just going to have this wonderful conversation. They said, oh, hi, I don't need anything. See ya. Oh,
Yeah.
what? You don't need me today? Yeah, and that really puts you back in your place and realizing,
Mhm.
okay, God uses me in the moment at the time, and it doesn't necessarily repeat itself
Mhm.
the same way. Um, and yeah, and that definitely has been a boundary thing on my part of,
Mhm.
oh yeah, I really connected with these people. They're
Sure.
sometimes you see them the next day, they don't even remember seeing you the day before, quite literally,
Mm.
and that's okay. Who are you? Well, I was just the person that talked to you for 2 hours yesterday.
Oh.
No, yeah. So that humbleness of realizing our place is
Mhm.
uh,
I think
very important.
the humility and realism of getting to know myself, not only well, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, but even recognizing my selfish tendencies, like we've been talking about. Uh, as I go into this ministry, am I doing it with? How much of it is because I trust God, I'm hearing His call, I love this person, and how much of it is because I'm a needy person who needs to be needed? And and okay, and when I recognize, I am a needy person, and I do get it. I really do get off on feeling like somebody needs me. Okay, when you recognize that, to recognize, okay, now you know something about yourself. Does that disqualify me? No. You turn that over to God. Say, God, here I am. Use me as I am. Use my neediness. Don't let it get in the way. But whatever I got, good and bad, put it to work, please, God, and watch what He does.
This idea of neediness and the way that kind of enters the equation also brings to the forefront another concept that we've talked about before, which is really the paradigm of actually I'm not sure paradigm is the right word, but the idea
It's a good
of
word, though.
um,
It's an impressive word.
thank
Use
you,
paradigm as often as possible.
thank
Except
you.
you have to say it. If you really want to be educated, you have to say it correctly. It's paradigm.
um,
Okay.
yeah, the concept of walking with people as opposed
Mhm.
to trying to fix them.
Nice. Yeah.
Huge. Yes. Yeah. That is such a basic principle, not an easy principle, but a basic principle of helping others
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
is really comes down to kind of asking the question, what do you need?
Yeah.
How can I help you? Not I'm here to save the day, but
Mhm.
how can I help you? And again, which takes that that pride thing away with, well, I've got such good information for you. I've got such good, thought processes about this. And I know everything. It's like, no, what do you need today?
Mm.
And it's surprising because you think you know what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And then when they tell you what they need, it's kind of like, oh, wow, was I wrong about that? Okay. And you're kind of thankful if you hadn't rushed ahead with something
Yeah.
rather than, those days when you actually stopped yourself and said, I'm going to ask that question before I rush in and just go, here I am.
Mm-hmm.
But that's such a key principle of walking with someone, accompanying them on the journey. I'm not trying to save everything, fix them, and that's, as far as like you as a Christian goes, so often we're thinking of saving people,
Mhm.
preaching the gospel and salvation, and so that's such a part of our vocabulary that it spills over into these helping areas of, I've got this wonderful thing to give you, and you just got to kind of take that step back and slow down.
Yep.
And I think another question that's important to keep in mind is not so much just how can I help you, but how can I help you to help yourself?
Yes, very much so. Yeah. If I'm jumping every time the person calls, a couple of bad things are happening. I'm neglecting myself, and probably neglecting some other important things in my life, my family, etc. I'm likely to start getting very resentful, and fostering that dependency on me. It's always as whenever I can, when I'm dealing with somebody who's just got a lot of issues, got a lot of needs. As much as I can, I try to encourage them. Well, look around. Who are your resources? Who are your network? Your supporters? Who can you talk to? And encourage them. Yeah. Keep talking to me. I'm cool with that. But don't make me your only support. Who else do you have? And I always encourage those relationships too.
I would say there could be a complicating factor in there as well, though. Even as we're talking about the importance of helping others to help themselves, which could be that, depending on the situation, it may be that the person does not have other people within that support network.
You do have that happen. I found that almost always they know somebody, or they know some person, or some organization. They know something that they truly aren't. Well, you're my only. If somebody says you're my only hope, I'm thinking, you're playing me. Maybe you don't know you're playing me, but you are. Jen, I don't know if that's hardly ever true. And if they don't, well, let's think about it. That maybe this is what we're going to talk about today. Who's out there? What outfits are there out there? And if they start saying, "I tried them, they were no good. I tried them," if they're, then we got another problem. Okay, now let's talk about how your pickiness. If it isn't quite perfect, I reject it. Well.
Yeah, just the conversation, like when like you say, when somebody says you're my only hope, and then, okay, you don't have to argue with it. Let's just keep talking, keep asking questions, exploring, listening for things, and going, oh, you just mentioned something about this, somebody who helped you here, and
right.
And highlight because they can just blow right past something where somebody helped them, because it's like, well, it wasn't exactly what I wanted, like you say, or didn't kind of pan out all the way, but somebody did try something, didn't they? That's a good thing. And of course, always encouraging, and certainly with some support group situations, there are people that can become part of that kind of thing. The congregation can become part of it in some ways. Various individuals, just depending on where they're at, but it's allowing them to actually talk about the situation and letting them help themselves, like you said, Ruth, by just talking about various things, encouraging the thought process, and then highlighting it when they note, well, there's something that's helpful. And saying, I know it didn't solve everything, but there was somebody there, right?
Mhm.
There was that one person who gave you something that one time.
Mhm.
That was a good thing, wasn't it? And just, it's not like nobody cares about me. Nobody wants to help me. Nobody. It's like they're out there.
And
Oftentimes, I mean,
Mhm.
you can't guarantee that 100% of the time, but it may take a while to find some of the littlest support, but help them to help themselves see that.
One of the
Very important.
things in Wisconsin state prisons, the volunteers, they set some boundaries for us. You're not allowed to have contact with if you're going to continue as a volunteer, you're not allowed to have contact with the inmate's family. You're not allowed to do one-on-one contact with the inmate for, I think, 2 years after they're released. There's certain boundaries they lay out. But within those, there's a positive. Okay, one question came up when some of us were talking to the Department of Corrections officials that we deal with about people who will ask us, inmates who will say, my family needs help. They live in the neighborhood of your church. Can you visit my family and have them come to the church, have them come to the food pantry, whatever? And what they told us was, no, we don't want you doing that. You can't have contact. But what we would like you to do then is give the inmate your congregation's information and have them pass it on to the family. And that way, you're empowering that guy. He's the guy now that's in a position to help his family and connect his family to a helpful congregation. So that makes all kinds of sense. I'm then, instead of making this person dependent on me, you've got to go visit my family. Instead, he's the guy that's helping out his own family.
Yeah. And definitely some of the things that we've talked about in the past as it relates to situations of trauma and situations of abuse. One of the things that can be difficult is not feeling like there is any control, and how that can lead into some of the more toxic behaviors for returning citizens. And so being able to think through and process through, okay, how can we solve this problem? That's something that it's definitely be helpful. But then also, I have a question for you that's kind of going to take us a little bit off of this topic. But you said that you're not allowed to have contact with them for 2 years after they're released.
There's a little wiggle room there. The way that one of the chaplains explained to me was, it's like no one-on-one contact. He said, if a guy gets out of prison and he comes to your church, that's great. If he gets out of prison, comes to your Bible class, fantastic. If he gets out of prison, comes to your support group, wonderful. But you don't take him out for a cup of coffee. That's Wisconsin. Now, other states have different rules. I know Minnesota, people who do prison ministry in Minnesota I've known plenty of guys who have become mentors to the guys that they were dealing with in prison, and that's allowed. Somehow they make it work, but in Wisconsin, that's not what happens. So, a lot of times, and that in some ways it's kind of neat that it gives us guys, as needy people, as people that want to solve all problems, it gives us practice at saying, no, I can't do that for you. I want to hold on to my status as a volunteer, so I won't. Saying no, that's
Right.
that's so hard to say. Well, good practice here.
But the boundary has been set for you.
Right, yeah. And I can pass it off even to the prison. Well, it's not me, it's them.
And that can even be helpful to the person that may have struggled with setting their own boundaries, obeying the boundaries that have been set for them. to say, no, even I need to abide by boundaries and rules that seem really silly.
Mhm.
You know, I can't do this, but those are the rules I need to live by, and that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
You need to live by your rules that your PO gives you, and you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
this is the same thing. You know, we're kind of living life together, and we all have some of those rules that we say this is really silly, and that just kind of came to mind because oftentimes we look at the rules that they have when they're out on supervision, and you're going, those are silly, and yet there are some rules that we have as well, not just with corrections, but with other things. And so to be able to model behavior well is part of it. I think it's can be very beneficial to them.
Mhm.
You know, we don't take shortcuts. We don't take cut corners
Mhm.
in life. Um, yeah.
All right.
Okay. Do either of you guys know what V01 means?
Oh, say it again.
Do either of you guys know what V01 is?
V01.
0, 1.
Trying to think of a wisecrack guess, but I can't even come up with a wisecrack. I'm sorry. V01. No.
Yeah.
You gonna leave us hanging? Come on.
I'm trying to figure out what it is. Sandra Welch just commented V01. So
Oh, is that a baby name?
oh, you know, I didn't even think about that.
Wow.
Sandra, is that a
V01.
baby name?
V01. Wow.
Well, something like that might work for my son. You know, he's a big Star Wars fan, so
Come
C3PO,
on.
R2D2.
Okay.
I hope not.
Very cool. Ah.
I'm expecting some kind of combination of English and Chinese in some way, since it is
already.
that.
Nice.
But V01.
Okay.
V01. Yeah, I don't know. That's striking any bells.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hey, can I talk about my the big Bible passage that the boundary passage?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
We're not going to stop you from talking about the Bible.
Yes.
Good move. Good.
Okay. Cool.
It's for all of us Al-Anons, all the people who are we need to recover from getting into crazy world because we're dealing with people that are in a crazy world. I love steering people to Galatians 6, first 5 verses of Galatians 6. This is going to be, I think this is the Christian Standard Bible translation. It says here, boy, if I had been on the ball, I would have been able to do a screen share on this. I am sorry. All right. So you just have to listen now. Close your eyes. And
Oh, that's
listen.
so terrible.
Ooh.
See it in your mind's eye. Visualize your body.
All right. Brothers and sisters, if someone is overtaken in any wrongdoing, you who are spiritual, restore such a person with a gentle spirit, watching out for yourselves so that you also won't be tempted. Carry one another's burdens. In this way, you'll fulfill the law of Christ. For if anyone considers himself to be something when he's nothing, he deceives himself. Let each person examine his own work, and then he can take pride in himself alone and not compare himself with somebody else. For each person will have to carry his own load. Oh, there you go. Good. Love it. Okay. There
Did
you
you get it up
are.
there? Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Oh, and then then there's that extra verse at the end. I didn't go into that one. But there's a couple of things there. I always encourage people to take a good long look at. There's 2 words used there. I think, if I remember, in King James, in some translations they don't differentiate. But verse 2, he says, "Carry one another's burdens." In in verse 5, he says, "Each person will have to carry his own burden." 2 different Greek words there. and the one about each person has to carry his own load. That's the word there literally is a soldier's backpack. You're a soldier, you got to carry your own backpack. You don't say, I'm tired, can you carry my pack plus your pack, please? You don't do that to your fellow soldier. And I think this would have called to mind to all the people that were living in the Roman Empire, living under the thumb of the Romans, that there was a law that said a soldier could tell a civilian, hey, you, carry my pack for a mile. And by law, they had to carry that for 1 mile to the next mile marker that they had all over the empire, and then had to give it back. There it is. Let's see. If we bear ye one another's burdens, for every man shall bear his own burden. Yeah, they didn't differentiate there. And there's 2 different words. Everybody, you got your pack to carry. You don't do anybody favors carrying their pack for them. But then in verse 2, help carry each other's burdens. That's a different word. And there we're talking about the crushing weight that people have land on them. There's stuff that people are dealing with that they're just not equipped to handle on their own. It's true for everybody. Definitely true for returning citizens. Life outside of prison. This is new. I'm feeling really overwhelmed. Okay, that's legit. I'll help you with that if I can. Burden of grief. Nobody is set to carry the burden of grief and loss and death by themselves. That's where I'm going to help lift some of that weight off your shoulders. Things like that. Of course. That's different from saying, here, I'm going to take over your job for you. I'm going to do the work. I'll make all the phone calls for you. You just relax, and I'll take care of everything for you. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's saying, no. Guy's got to carry his backpack.
That sounds like a great place for us to end today.
Well, okay.
Can I say one more comment about that verse that I just saw when you were reading it, and I was reading it along in basically the second line where it said, restore such a person.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings to mind, I've been doing some studying, and I'm actually going into a webinar soon after this. Oh no, it's tomorrow, not tonight. It's a different one, but on restorative justice. And the concept of is, they really, one of the lines that they say about that is, upholding human dignity, building just relationships, seek healing, promote accountability, enable transformation of individuals and communities and social systems. But it really starts with the individuals. And, just the concept of you starting this with, okay, here's the person, they've messed up, they've hurt others, they've hurt themselves, something fell on them that hurt them. What's my role? It's to restore them, to restoring them to sanity, restoring them to health, restoring them to well-being, restoring them to community. I'm not here to, hammer them with, you messed up really bad. Repent. Yeah. It's like, right. First of all, that there may be need for that. There may be need for understanding of that. But first of all, I start with a gentle spirit to restore them, to walk with them, to hold them, to hug them, to love them, and let them know that they are loved right where they are, right then, at that moment in time, and not sometime in the future. And, when you talk about, comfort zones and that, those can change over time as we, kind of reshape our thinking about the people that we're looking at and how we think about them and how we look at them. And do we see them as something to be fixed, or someone to be loved and restored?
Mm-hmm.
That's huge there.
Right.
Then I'll let you end up here.
All right.
That might be an even better place to end.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and pray out, and then we have a special announcement for people watching us tonight. So, pastors, duke it out.
Every other word, Phil, right?
Yeah.
Jesus. No.
Yeah.
Lord Jesus, we thank you for this time together. There's some laughter, there's some joy in what we do, but there's also the heavy burden that goes along with it, a burden that we need to understand can weigh heavily on us. And so when we talk about burdens or boundaries, we have to really think about burdens as well. The good news is you say, Jesus, that when we bring our burdens to you, you make them light and you carry them along with us. And so you do that for us and then help us to do that for others. Thanks for this opportunity to share some of our understanding as we're come to it in life. Some might call it some wisdom, but it's just my understanding for today, the best I can do. And we thank you for that opportunity, and bless those who've heard us. Bless this message as it goes out into the world. In your name of your dear son, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right.
Thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight. And as we said before the prayer, we have an announcement to make. We are going to be taking a bit of a break from live stream series, is kind of the way we've been doing them. There might be something else in the works. I haven't talked to these guys about it yet. But we will be taking a break here, and we will follow up with more information on this break later, and what exactly it means as far as Stronger is concerned, and as far as us going into the new year. So thank you, and have a good night.
All right. Adios, amigos.